as far as the name itself, remember what I said at the beginning here is that Hebrew names are all Hebrew words. And that goes for the Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh as well. It is a Hebrew word. The Yah, like I mentioned, Yishmael and Yaakov, is a prefix meaning he, and then it's the verb Hawa. And Hawa is equivalent to, for anybody that know a little bit of Hebrew, you should recognize the root Haya. Haya means to exist, to be, to exist, to have existence. And Hawa means the same thing. So Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, the literal meaning of that word is he exists. Now there's also a possibility that it's what's called a causative verb. A causative verb, and we're going to talk a little bit more about causative verbs here in a bit, but a causative verb means that it's one who causes something, that the action of that verb to happen. So if it is a causative verb, then it would be he causes to exist, which fits beautifully with Genesis 1 and 2. In our Aaronic blessing, the first word in there is Yahweh. And by the way, I've used Yahweh mainly because that's the way I learned it, and also that's what most people are familiar with. I do not believe that was its original pronunciation, but that's just what I use because most people are familiar with that. The next word is bless, and that's Barach in Hebrew, the Bet, Resh, Kaf. Now this is a purely abstract word, bless. You can't see, taste, touch, smell, or hear bless. And whenever you're reading if you're doing a biblical study, you got your book out and you're studying, you got your notepad, you got your books cracked, okay, and you're going to do a study. This is one of the things that you really need to pay attention to. If you're reading in a passage, and believe me, there's a lot of them, in fact, probably 80-50%, they're going to be an abstract word. Now, because abstract thought is not Hebraic, you're going to have to crack those books and try and find that original concrete meaning of that word behind the English. Because once you do, like we're going to use as we're using the example of the Aaronic blessing here, you're going to find that if you start finding these concrete meanings of these words behind the English, the text is going to open up to you in a way you never thought possible. Because the Hebrew language is so rich in meaning that just not one, two, or even three English words can really convey the meaning of each Hebrew word. Okay, so the word bless. This is an abstract. There's some other common abstract words. Glory is another abstract. Okay, what does it mean from Hebraic thought? It's the armament, or the armor, the weapons of God. To believe, in Hebraic thought, that means to support, to give support to something. Good. Good is abstract. The concrete is to function properly. Holy. What does holy mean? Now, usually we think of holy as someone who's pious or someone that's very good at his religious efforts. That's kind of what we think of as a holy. But in Hebraic thought, it just simply means exactly to set apart. But to set something apart for a special purpose. You see, now the full Hebraic meaning can't be explained. There is no English word that has that meaning. The closest would be special. I have two pairs of boots. I got my work boots and I got my dress boots. My dress boots are strictly for going, places where I want to look sharp at. Okay. So those are special boots. They're set aside for something special. Whereas my other boots, I'll wear them into town. I'll wear them out here on the property when I'm working, whatever. Okay, so my special boots are set apart for a special function. Spirit. I mean, you can't get more abstract than spirit, which in Hebraic thought is the wind. Anger. That's another abstract. Anybody know what the Hebrew word is for anger? The Hebrew word is off, which means anger. It's the exact same Hebrew word for nose. Look it up in your Strong's Concordance sometimes. Look up the word off. It's aleph pei, and it's translated as anger in his nose. Why? Because what happens when you get angry? Your nose starts flaring. So that's why there's a connection. You see, the abstract and the concrete are put together in one Hebrew word. Now let's get to the word bless, and we'll uncover its original concrete meaning. Okay, here we are in Genesis 24, verse 11. And he made the camels kneel down outside the city. You see that word kneel down there? That's our Hebrew word barach, to kneel down. That is the concrete meaning of barach. But just a little short bit about Hebrew verbs, because it's kind of important to how this word is used. Each Hebrew verb has a voice and a mood. The four different voices are active, passive, and reflexive. Pretty simple, actually. Active means to kneel down. Passive means to be knelt down. And reflexive is to kneel yourself down. It means the action is imparted on yourself. So we have active, to kneel down, passive, to be knelt down, and then reflexive, to kneel yourself down. Those are the voices of Hebrew verbs. Each verb also has a mood, and there are three moods. Simple, causative, which I already mentioned, and intensive. The simple just means knelt down. It's a very simple action. The causative means is to cause the action to occur, like I mentioned with the name Yahweh. And then the intensive. This would be to drop to the knee. To drop to the knee. In other words, it intensifies it. And this intensive is also used to give a slight variation of the meaning of a verb. Now, whenever you see the word bless in your Bible, in the English Bible, that is the intensive form of the verb barach. The simple form we just read, Genesis 24 verse 11, and he made the camels kneel down outside the city. That's the simple mood of the verb. But in the Aaronic blessing, it's the intensive form of the verb, which means to drop to the knee. Now, from a Hebraic perspective, what this literally means is to drop down to your knees in respect to another person, as if to present them a gift. That's what the word barach means when used in the intensive form. Now, that can be taken as literal or figurative. Literally, when a man is going to propose to a woman, he gets down he drops to his knee and presents her a ring. That's literally a barach. But it can also be figurative. If you're walking down the street and you see an old lady trying to pick up something she dropped, she dropped something, you run over there and you pick it up for her and give it to her. Now, this is not really getting down on your knee and presenting something, but you've helped someone. That is also a barach. A couple of words that come from this verb barach, and that is barech, which is the knee. The Hebrew word for the knee is barech. That's the noun form. And you might be familiar with the phrase baracha, or the word baracha. That's usually translated as blessing. Literally, it's a gift. When we give our blessings to Yahweh, we give our baracha, we give Him our gifts. And remember, in Greek thinking, your blessings are just words. In Hebrew thinking, your gifts are your actions. There's a big difference between how we think in Greek versus how we think in Hebrew. What we do is much more important than what we think from a Hebraic perspective.